Hey guys, it's Izzy here. Welcome back to the Crack the DAT speaker podcast series where we talk every week about something else DAT predent related. I'm excited to have you guys back and to kind of break down another topic. So this week we're doing DAT test day. I remember being a predent and being super nervous about the actual test day and how it was all going to work. And so I had to look up a bunch of different resources to try to find a breakdown and just kind of get a sense of what was going to happen. So I wanted to give you guys that insight here. So let's pull up the PowerPoint to just start this week's series. This week we're talking about the DAT test day, what to expect, how to succeed. Hopefully this kind of, like I said, it provides an insight into just what exactly to expect that day, and kind of prepares you to expect the unexpected and to never come into something blind and get overwhelmed by an aspect of the test day that you didn't realize was going to happen. So to start off, as always, we're doing some discount codes, which is awesome, and Crack the DAT really provides an awesome resource to study and prepare for the DAT, and they do a great job making it affordable and giving out these coupon codes, these discount codes, to make sure you get the best price out there. So for every person listening, for tuning in right now, the 10% off code for the subscription to Crack the DAT is ACE the DAT now. So you see it right here, ACE the DAT now. ACE the DAT 10, not ACE the DAT, ACE the DAT 10, excuse me. And make sure, as always, like every week, stay tuned for the whole series to get the 50% off winner announced at the end. As we've done every week, I will announce the winner and DM them and get the details through that way. So without further ado, last week's questions. So we didn't really get that many questions. I didn't get that many questions last week, and I kind of wanted to take a time before this week to just really encourage everyone to ask questions, because I know, like when I was in the pre-applying process, I had 100 questions and really was relying on kids who have gone through the process, who have applied, who have been successful, who have studied well, who have scored well, to answer them and to give me their insight. And so that's what I'm trying to do by doing these series, working with Crack the DAT, is to provide insight and knowledge to those of you who are still in the pre-application process. With that being said, I am totally a resource for you 100%. So ask anything privately, publicly. Just keep asking me questions, because the more you ask questions, the more knowledge I get to share. I know sometimes I might forget something or lack something. That's just because I don't know what exactly you guys want to know. So keep asking questions and I'll be sure to answer them. So I want to first say that I took the DAT about a year ago. So June, I think like 10th was my test date a year ago. Obviously we're living in an extremely different time now than a year ago. So I think there will be some aspects that are different. And I kind of wanted to address those before I begin, but I also wanted to say I'm speaking from my perspective. So I'm recounting the events that happened with regards to my specific test day. Obviously, this is my experience, and although it's a universal experience, it is my experience. So I want to just preface this whole talk by saying that. I also want to say that I found all this information on the internet, so like on ADA's website, etc. So really make sure you're going on that website. So the things that I've specifically found related to coronavirus, which will be universal for you all taking the test now, things are slightly different, but not totally different. It's pretty much similar now that things are opening back up. The changes that I found that were pretty significant or noticeably different from mine is definitely, parentheses, refer to ADA website and online resources for specifics and up-to-date information, because as everyone knows, the COVID-19 coronavirus impact and opening and all of that for businesses and store owners, etc., totally is changing day to day and state by state. So make sure you pay attention to what your specific online resources are telling you. They have an awesome, awesome outline section, very easy to find and very easy to read. So definitely look for that. Also, feel free to call and email ADA, also your specific testing center, if you have any questions or concerns regarding the test day. They are awesome and very responsive. I remember also for my application, I would call them a lot or email them, ask some questions, and they're very willing and able to help and to get you the information that you need. So definitely use that as a resource if you have any concerns or personal circumstances as well that you want to have addressed. A big change is that your eligibility was extended through the end of this year. So I don't remember the specific eligibility time frame, but your eligibility to take the test ends at a certain point. That's extended. Also, closely monitor specific schools to which you're applying to ensure timely submission and requirements. So with that being said, I think my deadline to submit was, I want to say October. Don't quote me on that, but it was sometime in the fall. I think schools are pushing back those timelines. With that being said, they're also pushing back the timeline that you have to get your DAT score in. Obviously, your application will not be completed or reviewed until you have your DAT test score reported. So definitely just make sure you're not assuming a universal time frame for each school. Make sure you're looking into the school specifics that the schools to which you are applying for their requirements and their submissions. Additionally, so you take the test at something called a Prometric testing center, which is a testing center that offers and houses a bunch of different available standardized tests. So they're back to in-person testing starting June 1, so recently. And you guys will take the DAT at a Prometric testing center. So that's a change that just opened and should be good for all of you guys. But obviously also calling your Prometric testing center to ensure you understand what the specifics to that testing center are going to look like before you take the test would be smart if you had any questions or concerns. So signing up. So when you sign up, you choose a date. And referring back to one of our first podcast series about a study schedule, choose a date that corresponds with your study schedule. So say you're the cram studier and you want to study for 4.5 weeks, choose a date at the end of the 4.5 weeks. Stick to the date. So there is a penalty to change your test date. And I think it still stands with coronavirus and everything, but it's like a monetary fine. Essentially, you pay it if it's like 60 days outside of the test date, 30 days outside the test date, etc. The fine goes up as you get closer to the test date. But I use that as extra motivation to not change my test date. You want to stick to the test date, and if you stick to your study schedule, you will be prepared as you will be ever. So you just need to take the test. Pushing it back is not necessarily wise. You're not necessarily going to learn anything else or get that extra boost or couple points on the score. You're just delaying the inevitable. So stick to the date and really structure your studying around that date. I think that the date can be scary, and as you approach it the week before, you kind of everyone has a little bit of a panic, but moving your date is more harmful than beneficial. Write down your dent. This is a small thing, but write down your dent pin somewhere you can easily access and also consistently access. You will need that dent pin. I remember when I signed up for the test, I got my dent pin and kind of just like screenshotted it in an email because I was like, oh, maybe I'll need it for something else. And I used my dent pin probably, I think like a couple weeks ago to do something for like enrollment stuff. So you need that dent pin number for a long time. So I ended up putting in a note on my phone, and I was very thankful I did because it's now been a year and I still need that number. Make sure your Prometric testing center is open and fully functioning. So again, that goes back to earlier what I was saying. Call them, confirm, make sure you can get there, and be close enough to you that you'll be able to easily get there on test day. So what I mean by that is I was taking the test in North Carolina, and I had 2 testing centers relatively close to me. One was about a 40-minute drive from me. The other one was like an hour and a half. And the hour and a half one had more available test dates. Like I had a bigger variety to choose from, so I was able to get a better date. But considering that I'd have to drive an hour and a half, and then the test, I had to be there at the test at like 7 a.m., I didn't feel like driving at like 5:30 in the morning. So I ended up going with the closer one, like a less ideal test date. But definitely just consider that, because I've had friends who have signed up and had to call and change, and it's just been a whole fiasco. So make sure, I know those are silly little things to note, but it's definitely something to consider. Second, last one is choose if you want to take the test morning or afternoon, but by very carefully and critically thinking about yourself. So I'm not necessarily a total morning person. And what I mean by that is that I shoot out of bed when my alarm goes off, but I'm not fully awake and enthusiastic and excited at 8 a.m. If I had the option, I probably would have slept in. But with that being said, I knew that with like test jitters and a little bit of test anxiety, and just being able to wake up and start my morning fresh and then go into the test and be done, I'd be fresher than I would if I woke up early anyways and kind of just lingered around my house until noon. So carefully and very critically analyze yourself and consider which one would be better. I'm not going to tell you which one, because obviously that's a personal choice, but definitely just think about yourself very critically to choose the best circumstances for you. So the night before, so this goes back to a studying tip, but review your flashcards, general study notes / guides. So like I said, every time I got a question wrong in the biology section, I would write down that question or that topic, kind of a little short explanation, in a notebook. So I had this massive notebook at the end of my studying. I had some flashcards with some formulas and some just like general things, like some equations and general things I wanted to know. And the night before, all I did was review. I didn't do... Oh, sorry, there's a phone call going. It's going to keep ringing. But anyways, all I did was review. So I did not do new problems because I didn't want to get stressed out about having an answer be wrong or have me feel like I'm not confident enough. So I just instead reviewed. And that was really helpful for me because I was able to focus on just kind of being a sponge the night before and not getting bogged down in like practice sections or questions I was getting wrong. Also do some PAT practice the night before. That's obviously a skill that's you master the more you do. So doing that the night before and the morning of is awesome. Also eat a brain food meal. So I, of course, I'm big into brain food meals. I've been doing it since I was a kid, like taking those standardized tests that you would take in middle school. And it's never failed me. So I Googled, I did a lot of like quick, sciencey, nerdy Googling about like which foods would sustain me. Lots of differing opinions out there, but main takeaway is that you want food that will sustain you and provide you with lasting energy. And then sleep. So that's a big one, is sleep. Sleep is going to be your saving grace in this test. You need to be well rested and you need to be able to sustain yourself for a 5-hour exam. So also the night before, I put a little asterisk there because that's the most important sleep that will determine the day of energy levels. So the night before the actual test, due to nerves, might be hard to sleep, but the night before actually is the night that you need to make sure you're getting at least 8 hours of sleep and having that good sound REM sleep so you can perform the day the way you want to the day of the test. Also, I've heard some stories and I've talked to some friends about this. I put this note in there, but it might be hard to sleep the night before due to nerves, but don't do anything you've never done before that doesn't work in your rhythm. So for example, melatonin really makes me groggy in the morning, and I had a friend who swore by melatonin, so she gave me some melatonin to take like a couple weeks before my exam, and because I wanted to help sleeping, and I took it, and I woke up the next morning and tried to study at like 8 a.m., and I was just so groggy, so I was like, absolutely not, I will just never take melatonin again if I need to be awake doing something. So that's what I meant by that. Just don't hype yourself up or get out of your rhythm because of the test. Make sure you're doing something that you know is working for you. So morning of, eat a substantial breakfast. Even if you are not a breakfast person or do not think you're hungry, eat something. I had a friend who took the DAT and he brought I think bag of almonds and a banana for a snack and a bottle of water. Didn't eat breakfast because he's not a breakfast person. He's not a morning person. Didn't think he was hungry. He said that he got out in the middle of the break and was starving, like stomach growling, so hungry, and all he had to eat was a banana and a bunch of almonds. So that's definitely not good, and you're definitely obviously going to be like fixating on the fact that you're hungry, not on the actual test. Also, be conscientious of eating long-term energy food. So you don't want to get the spike and crashes you could get from sugar. So maybe not like a very sugary cereal breakfast. Maybe you're going to want to have some protein and eggs and coffee, and but also water, so you're hydrated. Just make sure you take into consideration the sustaining and the energy you need for the 5 hour, the whatever 6 hours, 7 hours, since you're going to be eating and then taking your test. Wake up earlier than you think. So I woke up. I gave myself ample time to wake up, have my breakfast, really start the morning, because you don't want to be waking up and rushing, because the last thing you would want to feel is rushed and kind of off balance or out of place the morning of your exam. You want to be totally focused and clear headed. So being able to double check and triple check and make sure you're doing everything right the morning of is very important to just keeping a very calm, level headed attitude. You have enough to stress about. You don't want to stress over something very small like being late, or like forgetting your banana or something like that. Review a little is what I did when I studied. I like reviewed some flashcards when I was like eating breakfast. I always do something active the morning of. So right before I went in the test, I went to the bathroom and like did some jumping jacks. I did that in the break too. But I also, when I woke up in the morning, I went for a little like light walk around the neighborhood just to get my blood pumping and just to start the morning well. Get to the testing center early. So that's, let me see what the next one. Oh yeah. That's definitely really important. I'll explain later, but that's really important, especially because you're going to a prometric testing center. There's going to be a lot of other people taking tests. So if you want to be the first one in line, or even like the first couple in line, instead of having to sit there and wait for a while for everyone else to get checked in, you're going to want to be at the testing center early. Positive self-talk is also a huge tip I have for test day. It's actually like I've read some psychology reviews of how people perform better when they give themselves positive self-talk in the form of, you're incredible, like you've studied so hard, you've worked so hard, you can do this. Again, just little things that could boost your confidence. So before you leave your house, there's a checklist on the ADA website. So I printed that out, double check, make sure I have everything I needed, the IDs, the waters, the snacks, whatever. Just what you need to be successful. Also what you need to actually get in the exam. So double check everything. Consider traffic. So I checked Waze the day before to see how long it was going to take me, and just aimed for a time. But making sure you check traffic is hugely important, because sometimes I've done this in other regards, not test day, but like getting to the airport and missing my flight because I didn't consider the fact that there might be like 4 hours of traffic in like a 20-minute route to the airport. So just being aware of that. And then obviously gather everything you need and get in the car. So once you get into the test, so you get there, and like I said, because it's a prometric testing center, there's a bunch of other people taking a bunch of other tests. They're not all necessarily taking the DAT. Some people could be taking board exams. Some people could take the GRE. Some people could be taking the GMAT. Some people could be taking any standardized test people could be taking. So you have to wait in line, and there's a lot of people. And there's a lot of non-DAT folks there too. So the thing that I kind of got freaked out about was a lot of people were like holding different documentation when they were checking in. And I freaked out thinking I had the wrong documentation, or I didn't need this or whatever. And everyone else was also kind of freaking out, looking at each other, seeing what documentation they had or what they were allowed to bring in, like a calculator or something. And everyone was kind of being a little anxious on that regard. And we all kind of got a laugh out of it, because we were checking in and saying like, oh, do I need this? And they were like, no, every person's documentation and requirements differ for each test you're taking. So that's something to be mindful of that I didn't expect to encounter. Then you put all your stuff in the locker, and then you cannot wear jewelry. So this is something I was like never told, but I have just little dainty clasp bracelets, but I bite my fingernails, and I have a necklace, and I wasn't allowed to wear those. So I had to take like 10 minutes to try to take these clasp bracelets off, and then throw in my locker. And that kind of frustrated me, that I didn't know that you weren't allowed to wear jewelry on your face, like rings. I had to take my rings off. So it's just like something small to note that's kind of bizarre. And if you didn't expect it, it could kind of throw you off. You have to get your pockets and clothes checked. Obviously, they don't want you to bring anything in. That's normal. You get your fingerprints done, and that's how you check into the test. You like sign your signature and get your fingerprints taken. Very well executed, and they do it a lot, so it's pretty seamless. And then you're brought to your station. So once you get there, there's a test setup. So you walk to your cubicle, and there's like blinders on either side. So envision like a cubicle in like an office space. You're not sat close to someone. The closest person I had was like on a different row behind me. You're giving noise canceling headphones. I put them on just because I didn't like to hear. They kind of hurt my ears a little bit, but you don't have to wear them. I liked wearing them because it kind of drowned out the other noise of keys typing and stuff like that. And they're also not everyone else is on the same schedule, so there's a lot of like door opening and door closing because other people are taking breaks or the proctors coming in or whatnot. And then you're given 2 sheets of laminated grid paper and a Sharpie. So this is another thing that I didn't really figure out until I got closer to my test date once I started researching like what the actual day was like. But you can't erase the Sharpie writing on your spare sheets of paper. So you have to raise your hand up with the laminated piece of paper to get a new one. So as you're prepping as you're taking these practice tests right before you take the exam, definitely consider that. And whenever you use scrap paper, don't erase and do it again. Kind of consider the fact that you have 2 front and back, so 4 total sheets of paper, and see if you're going to need more or when you're going to need more, and kind of get used to the whole having to wait a second and get a new piece of paper, etc. Another tip is what I did is I would always hold up. As soon as I finished one sheet, I would hold my sheet up to get the second clear sheet because you have to exchange them. You can't get a third one. But I'd always have an extra sheet that was unwritten on because I would hate to have gotten to the point where everything was full and I was trying to do a problem and waiting for the proctor to come give me a new piece of paper. There's an intro explanation video that kind of explains like what the test is. Obviously, by taking all the practice tests and all the online resources, the prep company tests, you'll kind of get a feel for it. They're like pretty much look the exact same. And it's a good replication of the actual test. So you're kind of used to it, but I kind of use this to just take deep breaths and really settle in and breathe. Give myself a last little quick Hail Mary before I started. Bathroom breaks, leaving and returning. So this is something that kind of threw me off in the beginning. So you can leave in the middle, but you can't pause the test. So if you ever were to get up to go to the bathroom or anything like that, your clock, there's a little automated clock that is still going to keep ticking down. You can't ever pause that. So during your break, in between it's 2 sections break, 2 sections, and in your break, there's a timer. Even when you leave, and you can't obviously see the timer when you're in the bathroom. So just really be cognizant of. I ended up coming back super early and starting the test early, not taking my full break, but really be cognizant of that timing because once the clock runs out, the test starts, and if you're not there, the test is still starting. So you don't have to use the whole time, but then you have to get fingerprinted and searched again to get back into the test. So definitely allot that also into your break schedule of what you're going to do and how long you're going to take. So finishing the test, there's a post-test questionnaire before you get your test results. So your results, as many of you may know, your results automatically pop up on the screen after you finish the exam, and then they get printed out, and you get your entire score breakdown, all of the section by section, and your total academic average. They print out a physical copy with you to leave with, but the funny thing is that right after you finish the test, they give you a little post-test questionnaire. So I pressed finish with like test, and it says, "Are you sure you want to finish?" I pressed finish, and then I closed my eyes and kind of had a minute to myself. And when I opened my eyes, there was the post-test questionnaire, which I kind of blew through because I was like, "Oh, I want to get to the results." And then as soon as I really nonchalantly pressed next, my results popped up, and I was totally unprepared for them to come up at that time. So that's definitely just something to be cognizant of, that there is a post-test questionnaire and then you get your results. So if you want to take a minute, don't do it right after. Do it after you take the questionnaire. So then you sign out, and you have to sign a signature, do your fingerprints, sign out of the exam. They give you your score report, and then you leave. And you finish, and you made it, and you're done, and your hard work paid off. So with that being said, we finished the end of DAT, all things DAT test day. Feel free to keep asking questions. I know the test day can be very stressful and a very high, tense environment. A lot of things random about the test, and it's very structured, but also has some leniency. So definitely feel free to ask questions, or if you have any questions about strategies I use in the actual exam or timing, etc. Feel free to ask those questions now. Like I said in the beginning of this series of podcasts, I am here for you guys. I'm here to be a resource for you guys and to just really help everyone and pass on the knowledge and experiences I had, and just hopefully make you guys' experience and you guys' journey with the DAT that much more enjoyable. So without further ado, now that we're at the end of this series, here are the discounts again to get your subscriptions. Also, share them with your friends. Have your friends get the subscriptions. Again, just share the wealth, good study sources, etc. So for 10% off, like I said in the beginning, the code this week is ACE, the DAT 10. Again, it's right there. I don't know if you can see. Oh, here we are. ACE, the DAT 10. I'm trying to highlight it, but I don't think that works. ACE the DAT 10, and then also, since you guys stayed here until the end of this series, we have the 50% off winner as well. So I just wanted to end there. Nice. That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm excited to talk to you guys next week and just keep giving you tips, and hopefully make this transition and this part of your journey to dental school a little more enjoyable.